Fedgroup has always done things differently, not just for the sake of being different, but because they like to challenge the status quo, especially when they believe they can unlock more value for investors through stable investments. Today I'm talking to Michael Field, GM of Investments at Fedgroup, about Flex Income Plan. Michael, it's great to have you on board. So, in the same spirit that, as with many of your other bespoke offerings, you've designed the Flex Income Plan, an industry first. Please tell us what served as motivation for the development of the Flex Income Plan, especially in light of the fact that much of the dissatisfaction with existing investment products stemmed from investors.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think really it started when we launched a number of other investment products in the endowment sort of space, and we work really closely with independent advisors in the market, and we kept getting requests for a product in the income space. And as you sort of said in the intro there, we don't like to just offer something just because. And so we really sort of took the time and sat with those advisors to understand why were they requesting a product in a product category that's been around for a really long time. This is not a revolutionary category. And as we sort of unpacked it and understood, where was that dissatisfaction, we found a number of elements. Some of it was a lack of transparency or a lack of understanding of, what a particular provider was going to offer. We also found a fair bit was related to 5 years is a long time. And, particularly for an advisor, they can have done everything right. They went, they asked all the right questions, they understood, they gave good, solid advice. But a lot happens in 5 years. And in that time, the investors' circumstance changed, and they get this client suddenly dissatisfied with what they were sold, even when the advisor did everything right. And so, it was some of these sort of elements that we said, okay, we can see what's going on here. No one is helping the advisor market out with a product that is going to equip them to deal with this scenario. I think we can do something here.
Is this a product specifically for high net worth investors, or does it have a broader appeal too?
So traditionally, yes, it sits in that sort of high net worth space, along with endowments and the like. Obviously, this being a product consisting of an endowment as well as the annuity income portion. Some of what we found, though, is many of the offerings out there are very much a one-size-fits-all. And it's quite easy to make it fit well for a high net worth client. And I suppose many are chasing the bigger numbers. What we've done is a bit unique in the way we allow the product to be set up. And that is some of the flexibility that we're talking about in the name. There are other elements as well, but it allows the product to be configured in such a way that it's actually beneficial a fair way down the income spectrum. So, if an investor's made use of a tax-free allowance, maybe they've already used the interest exemptions, some of these various tools, this product actually starts becoming relevant to them fairly soon thereafter. So we see it having a much broader spectrum than traditionally the client that would use this product, although it still serves all the way up the higher net worth as well.
Talk to me about the nuts and bolts of the product. Is there more detail?
So fairly straightforward. It makes use of an endowment portion, as well as the term annuity. And that's nothing revolutionary. I think some of what's a little bit special in the way we've put it together is at Fedgroup, we don't operate in silos. We also have a lot of vertical integration. And so that's given us a few extra tools to be able to put this product together. And so that's what's enabled some of the flexibility. It's not just an idea, it's actually the environment to be able to pull it together. But in basic structure, it is put together like the products that we all know.
Okay. Tax benefits for the investor. Talk to me about that.
Sure. So as we all know, the endowment wrapper under the five funds approach, for an individual that's taxed at a 30% rate. That in itself has advantages for anyone paying in excess of that 30%. The way a product like this works is a portion of the money sits in the endowment, a portion sits in the annuity. And so obviously any portion that's sitting in that endowment is going in at that 30% rate. There's a few misconceptions about the tax benefits in the annuity portion. Some people will talk about it taxed at 3% and, various things like this. What's really happening there is under Section 10A, any capital being returned to you is untaxed. And that's not unique to an annuity. Frankly, you could have it in a money market, and when you take your own capital out, you're not taxed on it. And so there's not so much tax benefits from the structure there.
Okay.
Some of what we do in the way we're able to structure the product and some of the config, and I'll come back to that in a little while if that's all right, is we're able to offer it in such a way that we can really tailor those benefits to who the client is. So by structuring and using those two elements in concert, understanding the client's needs specifically, we're able to unlock a lot of benefit depending on who it is that we're serving.
In a previous comment, you mentioned that investment products tend to only meet sometimes the superficial needs of investors. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think it's so often products are built in a one size fits all. And so in this space, we typically see, a client comes along with, for example, R1 million lump sum, and at the end of 5 years, they're going to get their R1 million back, and we're going to pay them X per month. And that's an income plan.
Yeah.
And sure, that's great if that's what you're looking for. But not everyone wants to receive their same R1 million back. And so we have, for example, said, what if that person has need to put a down payment on a house? Maybe it is money they're using to buy into a life rights home. Maybe it is to pay for whatever the need might be. It could be more, it could be less than that R1 million. And so that's some of the flexibility. And you'll see I keep coming back to that word because we've looked at all the different stages along the product life cycle. And so where I talk about it being a bit superficial, it's quite naive to think that every client is going to want the same number back at the end of that period, regardless of their situation. What we also found in that is many of the advisors recognizing the limitations of that. We're having to use multiple policies running endless quotes, trying to sort of fine tune to get close to what a client is needing. And so that again is something that we've said, actually, no, let's understand what that client need is. We understand all the capabilities in our world. How do we put the power in that advisor's hand to let them meet that need?
You mentioned the word flex and flexible a lot, but I think that is the client of today, right? They want a flexible option. The time of giving someone just that and there's no flexibility, it's coming to an end. We clients know what they want and they want the flexibility, bottom line. In what way does the specialist underlying assets of the flex income plan help investors to maximize the inherent benefits of an income plan?
Sure. So there's a couple of things going on, and I think it comes back to something I sort of touched on earlier in the way Fedgroup as a business is structured. And it's not a bunch of silos. It's not these little, elements here and there. And so what that allows us to do is really look at that client need first and understand what is the full spectrum of how we can, because ultimately you're putting a person's money into an investment and you're putting the best structure to it. What we've been able to do is not use generic underlying building blocks for every client. And so that allows us to tailor it to exactly what they need. Be that because they don't just want their R1,000,000 back at the end, or be that because they might want access to a portion of their capital along the way. Be it because actually they don't want that income to be static the whole way along the journey. And so we've built really powerful rails for this product. And that means that we can get people into the right assets to support what outcome they're after, including that flexibility along the way. As you've said, the client of today is not happy with, for the next 5 years, I've got no choice and nothing, no ability to meet my new sort of scenario or needs.
And you operate in a very competitive market, there's no doubt. In your media release, you referred to unique differentiators of the flex income plan. Can you please unpack those?
Sure. So the sort of 4 key features that we sort of look to highlight when we talk about this product. The first is we talk about capital flexibility, and that is the recognition that, no matter how well you plan and whatnot, life can happen. Be it a change in your work scenario, your health, your family, whatever it might be. Sometimes there's a need to access a portion of your capital. And while that's not totally unique, there are some providers that would allow accessing some of the capital. What is unique is that we don't require the investor to forfeit their fixed rate. And so that it's about providing that comfort that they know what they're in for. It's a little bit of a known outcome, which is really what they need for some comfort. The second feature is income flexibility, and this is similar, but it's recognizing that 5,000 Rand a month might not actually be what I need. It seemed like it was going to be good, and I assumed inflation was going to be 5%, and maybe the official inflation rate, maybe it was 5%, but in the areas that a person is needing, frankly, anyone that's been to the grocery store recently knows, inflation is hurting. And so this feature allows the investor to actually utilize a portion of their capital and turn that into an increased income every month. And this we see as a really powerful way for, some of those difficult discussions when we started talking earlier today. The advisor gave all the correct advice. 3 years down the line, it's just not enough for the investor, whether it was inflation or, another income stream dried up, or, let's talk some real examples. People are supporting an adult child, which they never possibly imagined. Whatever it might be, they have this flexibility to actually tap into some of that capital, turn it into an increased income stream. And that, by the way, is a feature we don't charge. There's no penalties or anything for that. Again, this is part of saying people are buying it up front. They're wanting that flexibility, and they don't want that gotcha along the way.
Yeah.
If they are relying on that in the back of their mind, then we shouldn't be trying to catch them out.
That's quite refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah, we think so. Unfortunately, it's a little bit rare, that thinking.
Yeah.
The third one is a tool we call the Maximizer. And what this is doing is, as I've already touched on a couple of times, that full breadth of Fedgroup as an organization. We understand all the sort of variables and things that go into creating a product. And we recognized when we were looking at sort of who is this product applicable to, we saw there's a couple of things which a really astute advisor might look to optimize when creating or setting up a product like this for a client. And they could meaningfully improve the outcome for a client. They would be doing quite a lot of complex work. It was probably multiple policies, some of that sort of thing. So we said, how do we make that easier? So we automated that. But then we went a step further and said, actually, we have so much more available to us in the way we can set up a product. And it got really complicated, which is something we hate. We're all about simplicity. And so we said, how do we turn this into a tool that is literally click of a button, that is doing all that hard work for an advisor, saving them time, but allowing them to unlock that benefit? And so the Maximizer is an option that they can literally one click. It takes 2 additional pieces of information. So what is the investor's age? What is their other taxable income? And so what we're looking at is understanding that client's full scenario. And the sort of key insight is that the best outcome for the client is not the highest monthly payment. It is how much of that money stays in their pocket. And so what we know is if that client is still earning a salary, maybe they've got multiple annuities, whatever it might be, other investment income, at the end of the day, SARS is going to aggregate all of that and put all of that through your income brackets. And, quite often that client is going to have to top up when they do their tax returns. And so we said, actually, that's the thing we need to be optimizing for, not the highest monthly payment. But as I said, it's really complicated for an advisor to try to do that themselves, even harder for them to implement. For us, it's relatively much easier. And so we've built all of that complexity into, as I say, a one-click button that really unlocks quite astonishing value. We see the typical client ending up with about 5 to 10% more in their pocket through that full cycle. And that's just through setting up the product better. So that's a really powerful feature. And then finally, we looked at the ability to create a product that meets the client need. And again, that was something we touched on earlier. We said R1 million in, R1 million out might suit a lot of people, but it's not for everyone. And so we've built a really powerful quoting tool available through our advisor portal. And it allows them to say, yeah, I want to return my full capital. That works. Actually, I want to return a specific amount of capital, R1 million in, but I want 1.2 out. Or actually, I only need 500 out. They can do that. They can say, we've got R1 million here, and we want that to turn into the equivalent after inflation. So we can say, actually, we want that to grow by 5%. That's the capital we need out. There is the option to do a targeted income. So maybe it's the salary the person was on, whatever it is. They know what their budget is. They can choose a specific income and get whatever capital that is. Or they can take it as a pure annuity product. So just a pure income. We don't recognize that as a totally separate category. It's just the continuum of people need an income. And so even within that, there's a whole lot of variables. Again, keeping it simple, but allowing the advisor to quickly and easily align the product to what that client is trying to achieve. So yeah, there's sort of 4 features. It doesn't feel like a lot as a list of 4, but when you sort of unpack them, there's a lot of power we believe we've introduced there.
Yeah, I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed your explanation in terms of why you did it, how you did it, the fact that it needs to remain simple and easy for the client to understand and for the broker to implement. So that's something we can't put into an article. So I thoroughly enjoyed your whole explanation around the nuts and bolts of this product. Where would this product typically fit into the investor's portfolio?
Sure. I think traditionally it has been a client who is sort of approaching retirement or maybe a little bit later in life. What we're seeing, and this is where it was so important, all the consultation we did with advisors, is we're seeing this type of product being used in some quite novel ways. So one client that we see is a entrepreneur who has sold a business and is looking to turn that into an income stream while they sort of decide and figure out what it is they're going to do next. We're also seeing clients who just like the fact that they're getting that income back in their hands. And I think there's probably an element of trust. It's much easier to trust that money coming back into their account. Maybe they've been burned by something in the past. But we're also seeing some people use it as an element of sort of budgeting and financial management. So while they could just as easily live off a lump sum with a small withdrawal every month, the fact that it is equivalent to a salary allows them to sort of say, okay, well, that's how much money I've got, and I'm living within my means and some of that sort of thing. So for us, it's also something quite important to take into account the sort of mental, almost psychological side of investing and the journey. It's why we are also strongly in favor of low volatility, low risk type investing. Many would say, oh, but does volatility really matter if you're there for a 20-year time frame? And there's an argument for that. The other argument is to say, sure, but what if the investor is unable to deal with that roller coaster and ends up disinvesting along the way? you haven't actually helped them reach that outcome. And so there's some of these sort of so-called soft issues, which we feel is really important as well.
Yeah, I see that. That's really cool. So what is next for Fedgroup in the investment space? Are you giving away some secrets?
So I think in the same place that we started with this product being developed, it started with people requesting specific products for us, or from us rather. And yeah, quite simply, the next thing is post-retirement. So we have this fantastic ability to offer fixed rate and low volatility type investments, and those are really important in the post-retirement space. We've been fielding requests for probably close on 2 years on products like that. They're already well in the works. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on that space. That's where we're tackling next.
Well done. I think the post-retirement phase are getting a bit neglected. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Lastly, Michael, a word to the FAnews audience, who is obviously a big part of your audience.
Yeah, I think maybe just well done on, we see so many good advisors out there doing a phenomenal job. It's a difficult job. It's probably an even harder job to do well. And I really love when I see, advisors really doing that extra due diligence, that going that extra mile, really understanding that client. Fedgroup are, as you know, massive believers in advice. In fact, I haven't even touched on it. This product is only available with advice.
Okay.
An investor may not buy this directly from Fedgroup, and that is recognizing that there are products out there that are very powerful and fantastic when used correctly, but can quite easily be used incorrectly and to the detriment of an investor. So yeah, we strongly back advice, and yeah, thanks for the support, and we look forward to continuing working with yourselves.
Yeah, we also strongly back advice. That's the reason for our existence. Thank you for your time, Michael. I really enjoyed
A pleasure.
the chat.
Thanks so much.
This is Rianet Whitehead, FAnews Editor, signing off.